Hello, this is Dr. Adam J. Bach. We're going to begin our conversation about entrepreneurial opportunities. In particular, we're going to discuss first a little bit about different types of new businesses, and then we're going to spend this and the following presentations talking about what makes opportunities attractive. Some of the key lessons that you should take away from these presentations are that not all opportunities are created equal. Some are simply more attractive than others. You can always choose to pursue a less attractive opportunity, but you should know in advance if that is the case. At its core, some opportunities have the potential to create more value than others. And some opportunities are going to be more difficult to pursue than others. So it's worth your time to try to understand how attractive your opportunity really is. One way of thinking about this is with the dynamic capitalism typology. What we're doing here is separating out new venture opportunities based on two characteristics: the potential growth rate for the business and how much innovation is required in order to bring the business to market. Low growth rate opportunities that have low innovation are often referred to as the economic core. These are small businesses that fulfill fairly standard roles in our economy, such as restaurants. Short Stack Eats in Madison, Wisconsin might be a good example of that. A breakfast place that's become very popular right in the heart of downtown. Low growth rate opportunities that require high innovation are referred to as resource constrained. So these are situations where there's a lot of innovation to bring these ideas or opportunities to market, but there's a very low growth rate potential. So imagine an individual artist. That individual artist might be very innovative, but there's only so many pieces of art or work that that person can do at any given time. Creating an organization to produce more art might actually defeat the purpose, because then it's not that person's art that's being produced anymore. When we look at high growth rate ventures, the ones with relatively low innovation are often represented by franchises. So we call these ambitious, for example. And Noodles & Company is a very good example of a franchise operation that had a very high growth rate, but really didn't involve very much innovation. Once the set of meals was created and the standards for employees to follow, then that could be replicated at every single site. So relatively low innovation, but still potential for high growth. And then finally we have what we call glamorous ventures, which have both a high growth rate and a fairly significant amount of innovation associated with them. And one example might be a company like Tesla, where there's a significant amount of technological change that has to be incorporated into the products, but if it's successful, there's the potential for there to be a lot of growth. It's important to recognize that small businesses and high growth ventures are not synonymous. They don't mean exactly the same thing. And there's a number of key factors that we can recognize as distinguishing high growth ventures from small businesses. I'm just going to mention a couple of them. One of them is that usually small businesses use the owner's own money. A high growth venture is likely to require outside investment. In many cases, small businesses, the owners can remain fully in control, whereas in a high growth venture, the founders and owners are going to have to give up a certain amount of control to outsiders as part of the growth process. In many of these cases, the success of a small business is based on execution, whereas a high growth venture is going to depend significantly on how novel and innovative its underlying technology really is. So it's useful to recognize distinctions here in terms of why high growth ventures are not always precisely the same as small businesses. But entrepreneurship is more than just small businesses and for-profit growth ventures. Entrepreneurship is also social entrepreneurship, corporate entrepreneurship, which we sometimes call intrapreneurship, and family businesses. So let's very briefly mention each of these. So social entrepreneurship is where there's an innovation, usually in the area of nonprofit management. So a wonderful example of this, Teach for America, different approach to addressing underprivileged students and trying to provide alternatives for education based on teachers who are great teachers who are willing to spend time in underserved areas. Sometimes these can be in solving societal problems via for-profit firms. Whole Foods, originally designed to address concerns about the food supply system in the United States. Tom's Shoes, you may be familiar with, which has a buy one, give one model. You buy a pair of shoes and they donate a pair of shoes to children in Argentina. These kinds of ventures all use nonprofit maximizing metrics. So instead of saying that our goal is to make as much money as possible, which is the standard for-profit maximizing metric, they might include metrics such as reducing information technology items that go to landfill, which is a significant problem around the world, but especially in Asia, or things like donating 10% of profits to charity, and so on. So the whole point of social entrepreneurship is to accomplish something that's somewhat distinct from profit maximization, but it's really important to remember that that means you still can have metrics for determining whether you're successful or not. Corporate entrepreneurship, often referred to as entrepreneurship, is when innovation and entrepreneurial culture engenders new opportunities in large firms. The individuals who service corporate entrepreneurs usually benefit from better support and lower risk within the organization because the large company will generally have resources that a startup company would not have. On the other hand, the entrepreneur will have limited rewards because more likely than not, the company owns all of the intellectual property and the profits that will come out of this. And so the entrepreneur, in exchange for not having as much risk and better resources, will probably get less financial value out of it if it's successful. And then finally, family business is an important area to recognize. Many firms of all different sizes in the United States and around the world are family businesses, and some of them can be quite large. For example, S.C. Johnson Wax or Menards are examples of Wisconsin family-run and owned firms, both of which are multi-billion-dollar businesses. It's important to recognize that family issues are very real, and that can be for good or for bad. In some situations, a family-run business can be a very tight-knit group with very well-aligned goals. Sometimes the problems that a family experiences with interpersonal conflict can spill over right into the business, and that can be quite challenging. So important to recognize these different types of organizations as different ways of pursuing opportunities. And in the following presentations, we'll continue the conversation to learn more about what makes entrepreneurial opportunities attractive.